Israel refuses to do a permanent ceasefire and a full withdrawal from the Gaza Strip, they just will not do that. Understandably, however, that is what the goal of Hamas is. Because if Israel continues to maintain a military occupation of the Gaza Strip, they are going to do the exact same thing that they've done to the West Bank. We'll do after we do the guard at U.S.-backed Gaza aid center say colleagues fired on hungry Palestinian civilians. There's video of it as well. And then we'll get to the ceasefire talks.
Opening fire on civilians who are waiting for aid. Since the US-backed Gaza Humanitarian Foundation centers opened in May, the United Nations says more than 400 Palestinians have reportedly been killed near the sites. And this week, hundreds of charities said that Israeli soldiers routinely open fire on Gazans seeking aid. Israel denies this. But the whistleblower says that staff working for the foundation also used machine guns to fire on Palestinians who pose no threat. The foundation has said the claims are categorically false. Lucy Williamson sent this report from Jerusalem as Israel has barred international journalists from entering Gaza independently.
Days after Gaza's new aid operation began, one US security guard was already having doubts. He gave us this footage from inside site number 4, showing colleagues firing on a departing crowd of Palestinians, he said. First machine fire from a watchtower, then more than 20 shots from a nearby guard.
When this guy was into this group, this man dropped to the ground and was motionless. Then the other contractor who was standing there was like, "Damn, I think you got one." And then they laughed about it.
The former security contractor, who asked that we hide his identity, said his complaints were ignored.
I brought this to the attention of the leadership directly. I was like, I don't. And then the leadership said to me, well, you have no way of knowing that person was hit with a bullet. Maybe they tripped. Maybe they...
Did they show the part where the guy goes, hell yeah? I might have missed it.
Maybe they were tired and they passed out.
He said he witnessed several occasions when contractors shot at or injured Palestinians, including one woman who was lifted limp and unconscious onto a donkey cart after being hit with a stun grenade. Team leaders referred to Gazans as the zombie horde, he said, and instead of clear rules of engagement, had given this advice to contractors.
You have the inherent right of self-defense if there's anything that you feel uncomfortable with, and ask questions later. If you feel threatened, to kill and ask questions later.
That's a direct quote.
That's a direct quote. And if we're on a site and somebody, is any way aggressive towards you, take them out.
GHF said the claims were false and that civilians had never come under fire at one of its sites. But an internal report seen by the BBC suggests significant numbers of Gazans were harmed in some way during distribution over a 12-day period.
The GHF narrative that no one at a site has been injured, hurt, shot at is an absolute bold-faced lie. And they know it. It's not a, oh, we didn't know that, or, oh, we weren't aware of that. They are aware of it because I made them aware of it, and they've seen it.
This new distribution system, which Israel says is designed to stop aid going to Hamas, has been widely criticised for forcing vast numbers of people to walk through active combat zones to a handful of overcrowded sites. Condemned by international aid organisations and Gazans themselves, it's also now being accused of negligence from within.
Yeah, even the paid mercenaries are calling out the sadism and wanton cruelty of the occupation forces starving people so they can them for sport. Like, that was the coverage. You got American-turned mercenaries going to the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation and going, this is a bridge too far for me. That's how crazy the situation is. And we have footage. It's on camera. And people are quiet about it. I don't know. Press statement issued by the Islamic Resistance Movement, Hamas. The crimes of the occupation against our people from all walks of life continue. This morning, a new group of freedom fighters, liberated prisoners from the Wafa al-Ahrar swap deal, were martyred in a cowardly Israeli assassination that directly targeted them in the Gaza Strip. As we mourn the martyrs Mahdi Shawer, Ayman Abu Dawood, and Bassam Abu Sunaina. Hello. who were released in 2011, Wafa al-Ahrar, a prisoner exchange, and forcibly exiled to Gaza. We affirm that the occupation's crime in assassinating them and those who preceded them among the martyr prisoners and freed detainees is a desperate attempt to eliminate national symbols and break our people's will and commitment to the path of resistance. We stress that the blood of the martyrs will not be in vain. It will remain fuel for the continued path of resistance until freedom is achieved and the occupation is defeated, regardless of the cost or sacrifices required. We renew our call on the international community, human rights institutions, and all free people of the world to break their silence and exert pressure on the occupation by all means to stop its aggression and hold it accountable for its ongoing crimes. There's also another statement on the potential ceasefire. As you know, Benjamin Netanyahu is supposed to be making a trip to the United States soon, where they've outlined some kind of ceasefire negotiation that Hamas had said they had not seen. Here's their new statement. Hamas says it is not yet delivered its response to Trump's ceasefire proposal, says it's holding consultations with the Palestinian leaders and groups. But their full statement so far, and there is a final proposal we'll take a look at in a second. In the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful, as part of the movement's commitment to ending the Zionist aggression against our people and ensuring the free entry of aid, the movement is holding consultations with the leaders of Palestinian forces and factions regarding the offer it received from mediating brothers. The movement will submit the final decision to the mediators after the consultations conclude and will announce it officially. This is the Islamic resistance movement, Hamas. Here is the devil in the details of Trump's final proposal for Gaza ceasefire. A Hamas official accused Trump of aiding an Israeli deception operation, but the movement says it wants to bridge the gaps and make a deal. Tuesday is when Donald Trump touted the new U.S. promoted Gaza ceasefire framework as the final proposal, which was only for 60 days, if you recall. And the plan was still allow Israel to resume its genocidal war against the Gaza Strip after an initial 60-day truce. Trump is a crucial part of Israel's deception operation, a Hamas official told Dropsite News. The official characterized the proposal, which also obtained by Dropsite, as containing mostly rhetorical changes, though he acknowledged that some of the amended language describing Trump's desire to end the war was clearly aimed at convincing Hamas to support the agreement. The United States and President Trump are committed to work to guarantee the continuation of the negotiations with goodwill until they reach a final agreement, the draft says, according to the Arabic language version given to Hamas. The Hamas official said the new draft was largely a repackaging of terms that the U.S. and Israel tried to strong-arm Hamas into accepting in late May. That deal would have allowed some Israeli forces to remain entrenched in Gaza, offered no clear guarantees for a permanent end to the war, and allowed Israel to effectively maintain control of food and aid distribution in Gaza. Among the apparent concessions to Hamas in the document, one involves the timing of the release of Israeli captives held in Gaza. Israel had wanted 10 living captives released within a week of ceasefire taking effect, while the new proposal would see 8 released on the first day and the remaining 2 on day 50. Hamas has expressed concern that Israel would resume the war after retrieving its captives. According to another section of the potential agreement, once Hamas agrees to a ceasefire, then deliveries of food, medicine, and other aid will commence immediately and will be distributed through agreed channels, including the United Nations and the Red Crescent. It states that this would be done in accordance with an agreement to be reached regarding the aid for the civilian population. A Hamas official said the phrasing would continue to allow Israel to treat humanitarian aid as negotiable. It makes no mention of the U.S.-Israeli aid scheme run by the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. In an official statement on Wednesday, Hamas struck a diplomatic tone. The mediator brothers are exerting extensive efforts to bridge the gap between the parties, reach a framework agreement, and begin a serious round of negotiations. I think this reads in the same way as that the previous negotiations read. The only difference in this circumstance is that there is more internal pressure. Hamas officials have come under increased pressure from Palestinians in Gaza, including members of their own families and tribes, to make a deal. All of Hamas's representatives outside of Gaza have lost family members during the genocide. Several Hamas representatives have told Dropsite in recent weeks that they feel a heavy burden to find a path to an agreement that does not amount to a surrender of the Palestinian liberation cause, which is why they've sought to draw red lines around the issues of full Israeli withdrawal and a permanent ceasefire. Israel refuses to do a permanent ceasefire and a full withdrawal from the Gaza Strip. They just will not do that. Understandably, however, that is what the goal of Hamas is. Because if Israel continues to maintain a military occupation of the Gaza Strip, they are going to do the exact same thing that they've done to the West Bank. And the reason why Israel wants to do that is because they want to also permanently militarily annex the West Bank as well. The goal here is, once again, a full-blown of all Palestinians. Okay? The goal on the Israeli side is full-blown. They have revealed this reality on numerous occasions. And they show this reality to all of us every single day with their action. So it seems like that's what they're doing. New reporting. Secret Trump side letter would let Israel resume war. Israel's Channel 14 reported Wednesday that the current ceasefire deal would include a secret side letter from Donald Trump giving Israel permission to restart the war. The leak, attributed to a member of the political echelon, a phrase used almost exclusively to signal Netanyahu's direct involvement, says Israel can renew the fire if our demands with regards to the disarmament of Hamas and the exile of its leaders are not met. I mean, this is just like, this is so silly. Like, who is this even for at this point? Like, oh yeah, we want a ceasefire, but also not really.
The 8 points run by Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, GHF, are controversial. Critics call them death traps. The IDF says it is examining reports of civilians being harmed, and GHF...
Oh, the IDF is examining reports. Never mind.
GHF itself says there have been no incidents or fatalities at or near its sites, and that this is all Hamas disinformation. So we've got incidents, reports, disinformation. But we have found a clear pattern in the data that shows that Palestinian deaths increase when GHF sites are open. This is what we're talking about. This footage is of an incident near the Netzarim corridor. It shows people taking cover from gunfire in the middle of Gaza last week. We've geolocated the instance near a GHF site over here, and we've done the same for multiple other instances where fatalities were reported. As of July the 2nd, the Gaza Health Ministry, run by Hamas, has said that 600 people have been killed. Israel and GHF say that this is disinformation, claiming that no one has died at these aid sites. But we've analysed the reports of deaths and injuries on the days that the aid sites have been open, and we found that deaths and injuries in Gaza are higher on days when more of the GHF aid sites are operational. In other words, when more sites are open, more people die. You can see that here. On days when the GHF conducts just 2 distributions or fewer, health officials report an average of 48 deaths in red and 189 injuries in yellow. But if we look at days with 5 or 6 GHF distributions, authorities have reported almost 3 times as many casualties, this chart over here. We also found that, on average, 30% of aid distributions have ended in violence. Between the 8th of June and the 1st of July, there were 77 distributions across GHF's 4 sites. You can see those marks over here, SDS's secure distribution sites. Now, 23 of those distributions, at least, there were reports of fatal shootings. That gives us that average of 30%. We've also spoken to eyewitnesses.
All along the way, you're hiding. You hide here, then run, then hide again. At any moment, they might shoot you. You might make it back, or you might not. I witnessed death firsthand. Bodies lay bleeding on the ground all around me. This is not right. Food should be delivered to UN warehouses, and this entire operation must be shut down.
We asked the IDF for comment, and this is what they said. The IDF did not instruct the forces to deliberately shoot at civilians, including those approaching distribution centres. To be clear, IDF directives prohibit deliberate attacks on civilians. They also added, in light of reports of incidents of harm to the civilians approaching the distribution centres, the incidents are being examined by the relevant IDF authorities, and further action will be taken as necessary. Recently, over 200 NGOs have signed a letter calling for immediate action to end the GHF scheme, which they say is led by Israel, and to go back to the existing UN-led coordination mechanism.